Welcome to June. Let's stitch a year of stars. Today we are going to be stitching Joyce's star quilt block. This was another great block that I had so much fun machine quilting and I get to share with you today. So if you're brand new to this stitch along, we do have a few other resources you may want to check out. Not only am I sharing a brand new video tutorial, the first of every single month for this whole entire year, we have also created a couple of companion workbooks that you may want to check out. So the first companion workbook that we have is a piecing workbook. My sample here is all quilted on a custom panel. The panel is available for purchase through Honest Fabric. However, if you don't want to use the panel, if you want to piece your quilt, we do have that workbook that is a piecing workbook, teaching you step by step how to piece each of these quilt block designs and also how to put this quilt all together. So a great resource. Then we also have another workbook that's a companion to this stitch along that has, inside of the workbook, you'll see one page has the star quilt block with machine quilting, all illustrated, showing you exactly how I quilted each one of these blocks. Then on the next page, there's the block, full color, but a blank block where you can sketch, doodle, and draw your own machine quilting or have fun with it, come up with a new design and practice doodling it on there. Really, the sky is the limit. I'm hoping to just inspire you on your own machine quilting journey. So let's get stitching. I'll start out by stitching in the ditch all the way around the outside of my quilt block. Once I've stitched in the ditch all the way around the outside, now I'm going to switch to my regular 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler and from the corner stitch a curved line from the outside corner to the outside of that blue unit. From there, I'll travel along my ditch over to the next outside corner. From there, I'll adjust my ruler and stitch a curved line back to the outside corner. Now this is something you could do as you go along and stitch in the ditch around the outside of the block. The order that I stitch things in doesn't always mean that it's the right order. Sometimes it just happens that way. Once I've stitched that point-to-point design, then I'm going to travel along my ditch back to that corner where I'll stitch another smaller inside point-to-point curved line. I did not mark any center units or marking. If you want to have your markings a little more precise or your stitching a little more precise, you could totally go through and mark a line through the center of each of those corner units. Once I've stitched all of that in the corner unit, now I'm going to move to the light pink triangle unit on the outside. In each of these light pink triangle units, I'll start out by stitching in the ditch around the outside of the unit. And then I'm going to fill in with evenly spaced, straight half-inch lines. I'll fill in with 3 of those lines, traveling along my previous stitch line or the ditch to get to the next point. Now, once I'm at the corner of that blue corner block, then I'll again use that largest curve on my 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler, stitch a curved line out to the corner, adjust my ruler and stitch back to the inside corner. From there, I'll repeat the process using the smaller, working towards the inside. From there, then I'll complete that portion of the design by stitching in the ditch around the outside. Now remember, I'm eyeballing those, so my spacing on those corner units could be slightly off, so you can definitely go through and mark. If I were to do some marking, I would measure in from the corner about 3/4 of an inch to an inch to mark where I would stitch that smaller curve to. From there, then I'm again going to work to the next light pink triangle unit where I'll fill it again with those evenly spaced straight lines. Once I've completed that triangle, now I'm going to travel to the next one where I'll again repeat the same process. I'm kind of creating a frame, so It might be hard to tell as I'm stitching it out, but I want it to look like behind the yellow and blue sections, the lines kind of wrap around behind there. I like to create secondary type designs like that. Once I've completed that triangle, now I'm going to again move to the next blue section where I'll stitch that curved point-to-point line with the smaller version on the inside. Then from there, I'll work my way, filling in that next light pink triangle with the evenly spaced lines.
It's clear to see from up here. The world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful.
After I've completed that triangle, now I'm going to move to the next one and again repeat the same process.
In the great outdoors, forever free.
Once I've completed that triangle, now I'm going to go back to the 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler and stitch that point-to-point curve from the outside points to the outside corner and then a smaller one on the inside. Now you can see that I am working back and forth between the mini 4-in-1 and the 4-in-1. You could probably achieve this design with just one of the rulers, but I like to have them both and work with both of those rulers.
To see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell.
Now I have one more of those triangle quilt blocks. I'll start it out by stitching the ditch around the outside and then stitch 3 of those evenly spaced 1/2 inch apart lines. Now I'm going to dress up the center yellow portion a little bit more. I have not done any markings on this center portion. I'm completely stitching point to point. Now, you could go through and mark all of this out. Also, make sure to refer to the companion workbook where you'll see these designs completely sketched out and you'll be able to understand a little bit more. However, I'm going to go through and stitch out that foundation point to point. So, point to point meaning from the blue section right to the center section, then I'll stitch back along my previous stitch line to the center, then that next blue section. Now, when you're at the blue section, you may be wondering, well, how do I know what the next point is? Line up your machine quilting ruler so the lines are completely straight. I line up some of the lines on the ruler with my previous stitch line so I know that it's straight. And then if you stitch a straight line across that yellow section, you'll create a perfect square coming off of each of those 4 blue corner units. Once I have that foundation all stitched out, with this design, I do like to go through and stitch out the foundation first. So I know what I'm doing and I don't mess up that because that's the core of the design. So once I have that all stitched out, then I'll stitch an echo around one side, the inside of that square. Once I've stitched that echo, it's 1/4 inch. Then I'm going to fill in the inside of that square unit with pebbles. I love quilting pebbles. A couple of things, I do teach these step by step in my online class and book, Beginner's Guide to Free Motion Quilting. But as I'm stitching my pebbles, I like to adjust the size. Personally, I feel like if they're a little bit more random, then overall I end up with a better look. From that point, I'll continue on. I'm going to fill in all of these new triangles and squares that I've created with those pebbles and those evenly spaced echo stitches.
Meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. You and me, meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
Once I have completed the stitching in that whole entire yellow section, the echoes and the pebbles, I am ready to move on and work on the center section. That's a lot of work stitching out all of those pebbles. You could always use a different filler if you didn't love the pebbles, but sometimes I just love quilting those out. To complete the center section, I'll use my 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler and stitch a straight line through that center block. Once I've stitched that first straight line, then I'll travel along my ditch up to the top of the block where I'll stitch one more straight line, creating a T through the center of my block. Once I've created that T, now I'm going to, like we did in the yellow section, I'm going to add an inside echo that's 1/4 of an inch on the inside. Then from there, I'm going to actually continue that echo line across all 3 sides. Whereas on those outside ones, we just did it on 2 sides. So after I've stitched that echo on 3 sides, now again, we're going back to that pebble and I am going to fill in this new triangle with those alternating in size pebbles. Once I've completed the first triangle, I'll repeat that process on the next triangle, starting with the echo and then filling in with the pebbles. I'll repeat this process on each of those 4 triangle quilt blocks. Once I've completed that process, if I have done any marking, I can mark away those or spritz away those lines and I've got a beautiful quilt block design. I hope you all found a little bit of inspiration from today's video. Now, if you do want a little bit more, another version of this quilt block design, make sure you do hop over to my Patreon page, patreon.com/Natalia Bonner. Have a great day, everybody.